we're starting to get used to that sound for a lot of different reasons. It seemed like it would be normal being the police academy that's next door to the airport here in Roanoke. Mm-hmm. But it seems that this year we've been getting used to that sound for a lot of other reasons because we keep going to a different airport. Been there multiple times now since January. We just went there here recently.
Yep.
Yes, indeed. Up at Ronald Reagan National Airport, just outside of D.C. there in Arlington. You may remember I was talking about being up there before, after the Black Hawk incident with the jet collision up there. But we had the opportunity to go back up there here recently for Police Week.
Yeah, so several months ago, that I know for Darren it's a little bit longer, but for Gareth and I, several months ago, got put on our radar about being a part of what happens at in D.C. for Police Week. And so it was really cool. Just a little over a week ago, we all were there together. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people we already know. We got to continue building those relationships. We got to meet some new folks, make some new friends while we were there. But Police Week. So don't know that everybody that's listening knows exactly what Police Week is or when it is or why it is what it is. And so before we talk about, we wanted to just kind of share our experiences about Police Week and why we believe it's important and why we're a part of that. And that's one of the ways that people who support us give us an opportunity to serve. Darren, why don't you just share a little bit about Police Week, about when it is, why we have Police Week and what it does?
Sure. Police Week is May 11th through the 17th every year. And it really is it's a week that's been dedicated to remember the fallen officers, those who have died in the line of duty, and their families. And so there's an organization out there called COPS, Concerns of Police Survivors, that does a tremendous amount to organize this every year. There's other groups that feed into that and support it, a wide range of groups, but COPS is kind of the primary group that puts this on every year. And they will literally fly in families of the fallen officers from all across the country. And I had the opportunity to go for the first time just last year, but this has gone on. I think I'm correct in saying this was the 37th year. I think I saw that while we were up there. Excuse me. But last year was the first time I had a chance to go. And it was such a meaningful experience for me and such an incredible experience. I was very grateful to have the opportunity to go back. And I'm glad you two had an opportunity to go up for at least a portion of that time. There's several things that we'll hit on of what goes on during that week. But literally tens of thousands of officers and family members come in from all across the country.
Yeah, it was cool to see all the people. I'll never forget that morning when we drove in and seeing all of the amount of police officers and motors that were there when we pulled in. And I mean, I knew it would be a lot, but man, it was just crazy to see all of that. So Darren, you went up the Saturday before everything started, and then Gareth and I were able to come up on Monday. And then unfortunately that particular week, the weather kind of created some issues for us that week. We were not able to do all of the things nor was Police Week able to do all of the things that it had set out to do because of the weather. Some things got moved around and some things did happen in the weather, but a lot of things didn't happen at all, unfortunately.
Yes, it was wasn't the best weather week up there, but it was still powerful nonetheless.
Yep, absolutely.
And kind of how we got started going up there is I was invited to go up through Mutts with the Mission, which many of you are familiar with Scarlett. She is the most popular member of SHiELD team here. And
if we get Slinky, our service and facility ferret, she might be secondary.
Yeah. Gareth, I really wish you'd let the Slinky thing go. I don't think it's a good idea.
I literally sat down in front of an officer the other day, and they said, "Where's Slinky these days?" And they were serious. They thought that I had Slinky from the post.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just thinking, by not having Slinky, we're hurting people.
When I can see in writing, or better yet, when I can see when I can hear from your wife directly that she's okay with you getting a ferret and keeping it in your home.
We did make a covenant for better or for worse.
When I hear from Courtney that it's okay, for you to have a ferret in your home, we can talk about it.
I got to be quite honest. I'm actually kind of surprised that a ferret has not showed up at your house yet.
There's been money that's been raised. And I think, I don't know.
Well, for most people, I will say
Scarlet
and dogs like Scarlet seems to be pretty effective in having a positive impact on men and women and to children. And then really that's why we were invited up.
Yep.
We were able to go up to Police Week, and what we started off doing, the reason I went up Saturday evening and met up with so many others that had their facility service dogs with them, is so that first thing Sunday morning, we could participate in a opening ceremony. I was very fortunate to participate in that and have an opening prayer for all the motorcycle officers, the motors that were there from across the country. We had about 250 motors out there, honor guard members as well, and able to participate in that so then we could greet the family members of the fallen officers as they arrived by plane into Reagan National. And so what would happen, just to paint that picture for you a little bit, the honor guard members, again, from departments from all over the country, honor guard members would meet those flying in as they got off the planes. They would escort them down to baggage and then carry their luggage out to where charter buses would pick them up. While they're waiting for the buses, we would be there with the dogs, and then that's really where you guys got to participate quite a bit.
Yep.
In your time up there, and then they would load them on the buses, and the motors would escort them to the what they call the survivors hotel, the main hotel where they were staying. Pretty amazing if you think about it, the opportunity to look these men and women and children in the eyes, and it's quite impactful.
I know, like for me, like on Monday, half the day I was with an honor guard that would go to the different terminals and meet the families as they would come off the plane, and then the other half the day I was down at the exit where they would come out to get checked in to get on the buses. And I tell you, man, it was amazing to watch as people would come off the plane and to watch that honor guard going from parade rest to salute, for them when they would come off the plane. And I know watching originally, like the people who weren't part of that coming off the plane and they were trying to figure out what was going on, a lot of them wouldn't even walk through where they were. They would walk around them, and then the family would come off the plane. And it was just a really, I don't know, man, the experience of watching those families getting to experience that together, especially families who were experiencing that for the first time as they come off, and those small kids, and they were commenting about, the honor guard that was there. And then as they walk through what I'll just use as a tunnel of honor guard as they come off the plane, and the dogs be standing there at the end of that line and down past there, and the kids would come through and play with the dogs. And then, we had a chance to talk to them and hang out with them and spend, there. And then we'd again walk with them down to the exit and then go do that all over again, that for that half of that day. That experience was unlike anything else I've had. It was incredible.
So we kind of split up when we were up there. We had about, I believe there were 13 dogs up there. All came from Mutts with the Mission, and the three of us, and we kind of divided up. And so I didn't see you much at all Monday.
Yeah.
And I know when we divided up, I went with some people to the Survivors Hotel, and we were there with a couple of people. 3 people were there who had just matched with their facility dogs. And so that's why Mutts with the Mission would bring some of us who have had our dogs for a while. We'd be there with them to help kind of show them how they can interact with people and things to look out for, and just share some tips that we've learned along the way. But we would just set up camp in the lobby we would put down the mats for the dogs would lay down, and people would just come to us. And for me, what was special was being able to see familiar faces, because it's not just the family members of those who were of the fallen officers from this past year, but there are people who have come for many, many years. In fact, some of the children had come multiple years. And there were several that I had met last year who recognized Scarlett immediately and came up, and that was really neat to see the amount of excitement for them to see Scarlett again, and the other dogs that they had recognized from before.
I thought it was so cool, man. Like you talked about the excitement when they saw Scarlett. One of my favorite things was watching the families, especially when I was down on the lower half of the airport as they were getting ready to check in for their charter buses, because I spent part of the day down there. And to watch these families come in, and you know, they're coming for a very difficult reason to this week, because they've lost someone in the line of duty that they care about, they love, a spouse, a son, a brother, or somebody. But to see them light up when they would walk into that location we were in, because we had dogs on both sides of that hallway, and we were just ready waiting, and we just would talk to people, and to see them again, their faces light up, and for them to get down in the floor and to just play with the dogs. And we've talked about this before, and I think we even shared about this on the podcast when we had been to Reagan earlier this year, that the conversations that are started with the dogs, because they just start petting the dogs and they start talking about their dogs and their home, and you don't even have to start the conversation. The dogs start the conversation, especially with the small kids. It was so cool. They would come in, they'd plop down on the floor, and we'd play with them, and they'd play with the dogs, and we're giving out stickers, and you know, and they're just having a great time, because they're there again, because the majority of the small kids was because they lost a mom or dad, but we're getting a chance to just love on them and do that. It was just really, really cool.
So cool to see the families again get off the airplanes. Honor Guard is saluting them. Yep. Big deal. And so that's all the civilians that were around there kept coming up and saying, like, well, what is this? Like, who is this? So we were explaining to them that we get to honor the survivors. And but the dogs kind of broke that whole experience for the families. So right before they were to get on the buses or wherever, the dogs would just be lined up as you were talking about. And you could almost see on their face of like a little bit of weariness, like this is cool, but I'm also here because this hurts.
Yes.
And when they would play with the dogs, when the kids would interact with them, ladies would start hugging on them. There was a bunch of different reactions, but so cool that God gave us that tool to be able to help.
I know I had a couple of times that afternoon where people had come through, played with the dogs. There was a table just outside the door where they would check in, and then they would go get on the bus from there. And there was a couple of times where they were waiting on the buses to get full, that people got off the bus and came back in and played with the dog, especially with the small kids. They brought them back in just to spend that time, you know. And it was just so cool, man, because like I said, this is probably going to be the only interaction, unless we see them again like at Police Week, that we're probably ever going to have with them. You know, but just to be able to have those moments where, whether it's their first walk through the line or whether they've got on the bus and come back through, where we get to just love on them and get to spend some time and help minister them. And a remembrance of one of the worst times of their life, you know, it's just a surreal experience.
Carry their bags for them, laugh with them, let them see the dogs, just get them kind of established before all the festivities kick off.
What was interesting is I learned from some of the organizers of the event. They said year after year they kind of do a survey of those who've participated, and the three things that they mentioned, the top three things that they from Police Week, and there's all kinds of things. There's a candlelight vigil. There's the various things at the memorial wall itself, where the names of the fallen officers, which I think now there's well over 6,000 names that's been added to that wall, unfortunately.
Wow.
And in fact, the initial wall they had to build. They had to add another section. They built that memorial wall higher. They had to extend it higher to add more names. But they've done these surveys year after year, and the top three things that they mentioned of what had the most impact on them. Number one, well, I don't know if this is the order or not, but the three things that they mentioned was, one, the honor guard. To see these men and women from across the country, departments big and small, send honor guard members who are decked out. If those in the world that we serve and in the circles that we serve in, they're familiar with this. But if you're outside of these circles, man, when these honor guard members are decked out, they look sharp.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
And that has a huge impact on the families of the fallen. And then the other thing that's mentioned, the motors, that you have motorcycles, these motorcycle officers, and their bikes are looking sharp.
Yep.
They are pristine looking, and they've come in literally from all over the country, from Texas, Florida, Illinois, Washington State. There were motors there from literally all over the country, and that had a huge impact. And the other thing that they mentioned in the top 3 are the dogs. That's how impactful those 3 things are: the honor guard, the motors, and the dogs. No mention of chaplains, but I think if they asked, I should have pushed a little bit. We were probably number 4 is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, maybe.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, maybe not.
So there was talking about the dogs being in the top 3. There was a moment during at the airport with this little boy who came in, and he was probably, I don't know, maybe 6, 7 years old. And one of the other handlers there, he had a dog named Marlin, and he was giving out Marlin stickers. And he handed the little boy a sticker, and he turned around and some of the ladies from Mutts with a Mission, and they were handing out Mutts with a Mission stickers. And so his mom and I think it was his grandparents were right behind him. They were all like, "Hey, we got to go get on our bus." He's like, wait. And then he gets down to his luggage, and he's taking the backs off their stickers. Like, buddy, we can do that when we get to the hotel. And he said, "No, I don't want to take a chance on losing my stickers." So like the very front of his suit, most of his suitcase was like a cloth material, but the front of it was plastic. And so he was taking those stickers and he was peeling the backs off because he didn't want to lose them and put them right on the front of his suitcase. And I thought, man, how cool is that? That he even recognized he didn't want to lose those stickers. It was that important to him that he wanted to make sure they made it on his suitcase.
Well, we'll get to some other things that took place up there, but one of the things that you all got to experience in your time there as well is just meeting officers, not just from across the country, but from around the world.
Holy cow! Yeah, it was crazy. Which
led to some interesting conversations and something that happened that nearly, it disgusted me, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it was nasty.
Yeah. There was so there's people from Australia, there's people from like
Great Britain,
London, all over the place. I actually met a guy named Darren Chaplin. And
that's weird.
And then he took a picture with me. Then I heard a couple times somebody yell the name Gareth. And I was like, Gareth? So I went over and he was like, yeah, that's my best mate. We went through this together. I was like, I've never met a Gareth in my life. And so there was, that's a normal name. I was like, not for Southwest Virginia, it's not. So I never could catch up with him. But one of the things that somebody brought as part of it was like a trade show where you almost give coins and patches and exchange stuff. And guys from Texas were like bargaining their cowboy hats off. It was pretty cool.
That was really cool.
Yeah. They brought like a ton of hats and were just giving them to people. But there was one random lady that I don't know where she came from or why she did what she did, but she brought with her like a serving tray, like a random loaf of bread and Vegemite.
Yeah.
She's from Australia.
She's from Australia. I can tell you that for certain.
Like, what would possess someone to be like, I'm going on a trip. I'm going to bring a stale loaf of bread, a serving tray, and a bottle of Vegemite. And so I walk up, and this is how I got involved in it. Like, I have 2 phones with like video, and this Australian lady's like, try this stuff, and it says Vegemite, and I was like, no, I'm not about that. I'm not a vegetarian, no ma'am. And so they're like, just try it. And so like they all ate it, and so she put it on her finger and ate it to show me like it wouldn't kill her. So she put it on a piece of bread and gave it to me. It was like mayonnaise, like a cow pie, and maybe some soy sauce had a baby.
Oh, gosh.
No, it was one of the more disgusting things that I've ever put in my mouth. And I was trying to, like, on the video, I told her, like, thank you for sharing your culture with me. But why would you do that to people? It was disgusting.
Yeah, it was.
She did it all week long. You like to try Vegemite? And everybody's like, don't do it. Don't do it.
And Darren had just tried it right before you walked up. That was it was great.
Great. It was great because you didn't try it.
I did not. You are correct.
I'm like, I'll play along, whatever. How bad can it be? I thought I'd eaten poo. I'll be honest.
It's a rotten bottle of mayonnaise, cow poop, and soy sauce.
Yeah, nasty. I think the way I described it on the videos, I remember what it looks like. And those of you if you have children, if you think back to when your baby was born, precious baby,
that roof and tar,
that first, that first baby poo that looks like
that's exactly what it looks like.
Roofing tar.
Yep.
That's what that stuff. I mean, I'm like, did I just eat something that came out of a baby's bottom? Because it was horrible. It was the worst thing I think I've ever tasted in my life. I just looked at her. I was like, why would you do this?
She
liked
came
it.
prepared to do that.
Yeah.
She knew that this was not going to be okay.
Yeah. And she said this is a normal thing in Australia.
Yeah. Do you remember when you asked her, what is this? Do you remember what she said? She said it's about 80% yeast extract. I'm like, that's not helping your case.
No.
Anyway. So we got to experience a little bit from other cultures that
should have stayed there.
Well, and if you would like to see this actually unfold, this episode we release every Wednesday. So today, if you're listening to it on release day, you can find these videos on our social media. If you listen to it after release day,
I don't know.
Just head over to social media and scroll back, and you'll be able to see it. Because I'm going to upload them so you all can enjoy the Vegemite experience with Darren and Gareth.
Yeah, they eat this regularly where she's from. And I'm like, you poor people. No wonder people are trying to come into this country. So
no
badly.
doubt. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of Vegemite, some other stuff that happened during Police Week. It's pretty neat, again, to be able to meet the families and walk with them through that. And even if we could provide them a laugh, say something dumb, show them a dog, pretty neat opportunity. But one of my takeaways was I wish every law enforcement agency could participate at some level in Police Week.
Yes.
I was sitting with some officers actually before this episode eating lunch, and they said, "Where were you last week?" I was at Police Week. And they did not know what Police Week was. So it's not something that's that popular, apparently. And it was a very big honor to be there. And it was a very big honor to walk with those surviving families and to do any amount of help that you could provide to them, whether it was carrying their bag, show them where their bus was at, show them where the dogs were, or whatever it was. It was so neat. And,
yeah, I was going to say, one of the things I was able to do, actually, I believe it was Sunday afternoon before you guys were able to get up there, they had a canine memorial service at the primary memorial site, not the canine memorial, but the memorial site that I was just referring to with over 6,000 names. They had a memorial service for all the canines who were lost in the line of duty last year. We have just been through that here, and one of our departments had a line of duty death of a canine officer, and we witnessed firsthand the impact that had on the handler and really others in the department. Well, I was there, and there were several dogs. I don't know how many off the top of my head, but several dogs who were lost last year, and had a very again this significant ceremony, this memorial service. That's really about helping these officers, right, and their departments, and that was really special to witness that and spend that time at the memorial wall. There were several families. I met families who, I was talking to one husband and wife. He had retired. He was retired law enforcement. And when I started talking with them, this is my son. His son had followed in his footsteps and died in the line of duty. and they were there for Police Week, but they're there to see their son's name on the wall. And it's, while we're talking about this, there's so much honor and things that are with it. To your point earlier, Gareth, when they're arriving to the airport, it's like exciting and awful all at the same time. Yeah. It's like, it's that club that nobody asked to join, nobody wants to be a part of, but here they are.
Yeah.
And so it's just this mixed bag of emotions that they're dealing with. But I was able to spend some time with them. Anytime I saw someone sitting, there's like a shorter wall that's in essence a bench that kind of goes the inside of the other circle of names, if you will, where the people can sit directly across from the names etched in the wall. And whenever I saw someone that would even hint at looking at Scarlett, I would stop. And sometimes Scarlett, I'd have her just jump up on the wall and lay down next to them. Sometimes she'd lay her head in their lap. Maybe she'd lay across their laps. And boy, just incredible conversations at times. Other times I would just sit and listen. Or sometimes there wasn't anything much at all said. They would just pet Scarlett. Pretty amazing.
I think it was a cool honor as well. I think you've hit on it a little bit, but for us to be able to support some departments that we had walked through a line of duty death with, or other critical incidents. Now that we get the privilege of serving somewhat statewide, it's a big deal to not only walk with them for that short time after incident, but to meet them at Police Week and to see their families and for their families to remember us, and then to kind of walk with them through that. So if you're listening and you do support SHiELD and help us and partner with us, thank you.
Yes.
We're able to be there for them as well as our local departments. And so such a really big honor. And that's why I wish officers from our local departments here could get the opportunity at least once in their career to go up to Police Week. It is such an honor and it's such a privilege to be part of that. And I think it makes you come home and have a little bit different mindset, that thank goodness that we had a critical incident a couple of years ago and almost lost an officer in the line of duty. Very, very fortunate that we weren't up there all mourning their loss.
Yep.
So it makes us very grateful. We get to be part of that. One of the things that I started hearing from older officers that were from a different generation is that it seems like the new guard, if you will, the younger generation, for whatever reason, are not participating as much as they used to in those memorial experiences, either locally or across the state. Don't know if that's fully true. Don't know why that's happened, but I again think that departments should consider sending officers there to help at least once in their career.
It's powerful. Now there's other things that people can get involved with up there and that kind of thing. But if you are going up as a part of an honor guard, if you're going up as a motor, if you're just going up in any kind of support way at all, I tell you, now this year it rained. There's a prayer, candlelight vigil I had mentioned earlier. This year is going to be, it fell on a Tuesday evening, and unfortunately it's pouring down rain. I've got Scarlett. I wasn't going to have Scarlett out in the rain for 4 hours. Turns out people don't want a smelly, wet dog. Doesn't bring a whole lot of comfort that way. But last year I was out there. There were 40,000 people out there, each holding a lit candle at night, as we remembered those who have fallen in the line of duty, and in support of their families. Right. It's about remembering, but it's about serving their families and letting them know that for however long that they're there, that your loved one matters to us. Like we're standing with you as much as we can, kind of thing. And what you were saying earlier, Gareth, there's that family from one of the departments we were able to reach out to and walk with them through some difficult days. We very fortunate to be able to be at the memorial wall with them, at least the one day for a while, and really brings things home, right? Yeah. It's very powerful. So one of the things that was kind of a surprise, we didn't expect this to happen at all. It just worked out this way. At the hotel where I was staying with others from Mutts with a Mission, there happened to be a Vietnam veteran reunion group there. And the way we were kind of introduced to them, one of the people from Mutts with a Mission, Brooke actually, who started Mutts with a Mission, was she had a Greater Swiss Mountain Dog with her that she's working on training right now. It's a beautiful dog, only a year old, and has 2 more years of training that is going to go into that dog. Amazing. But one of the organizers of that event for that reunion group saw Brooke, and it's like, hey, I've got a lot of vets up here, and they could really use your dog if you wouldn't mind bringing your dog up. Would that be all right? And she's like, I can do better than that. Yeah. So we had 9 dogs that went up there to interact with those veterans. Pretty amazing. That particular reunion group was there. They refer to themselves as the keeper of the last 41, and that's the last 41 who were killed in Vietnam. The last 41 names added to the Vietnam Memorial Wall, and then the 3. There were 3 who were left behind. They didn't realize at the time, but there were 3 that were still alive when they left, and they weren't allowed to go back and try to rescue them as well. If you've ever been to the Vietnam Memorial Wall or seen pictures, you'll see that there's 3 that are walking away, and that's what that's reminding people of, that there were 3 left behind. And we all had the opportunity to meet one of the widows of one of the 3 that was left behind. Yeah. Never remarried. 50 years, never remarried. Pretty amazing group to interact with. Yeah, that was an unreal experience, getting to go in and talk with them and to watch them, and too, like, I know we keep bringing up the dogs, but just to watch the impact of the dogs with that group during that meeting, and to see them interact with them and to love on them, and it was very special to have a chance to walk into that meeting and to walk into that group and just talk with them, and then I think Gareth walked over and said, hey, I was just wondering if we could pray for you guys. Just wondering if we could say a prayer over you. And so it was cool because it was so loud and there was so much talking, and then it was just like he brought that up, man. The place went to a pin drop. I mean, you could have heard a pin drop in that place, and then Darren was right in the middle of the room. I was just right over behind you, like a table behind you, and you stood there and prayed for those guys, and it was just a really somber experience in that moment. That was just really, really neat. Yeah, that was special. It was for me. A lot of my friends, fathers and things when I was a little guy, their fathers, in some cases mothers, were in Vietnam, and I remember well growing up and seeing in these primarily men, the impact that Vietnam had on them, and how poorly received they were afterwards. So for me anyway, it was very, very special. And actually, there's one morning that as that's actually the morning after we had met them. Yep. I met this guy and one of the members of that group who wasn't able to be there the night before, talking to him and told him I was a chaplain, explained what I was there for, and he explained his role and with that reunion group and everything, and we kind of parted ways, and because of all the rain, I mean, a lot of rain. Yeah, it was monsooning up there. Our plans changed, and then they changed again. Yeah. And so I ended up back at the hotel. I'd been in the lobby for maybe 3 minutes. And this man and his wife and a couple of others came back into the lobby, and he sees me and he said, "Chaplain," and he almost collapsed in my arms. His son, he had just learned that his son had passed away, one of his boys, who is also a veteran, by the way. Won't go into all the details on that. I'll just say, walked with them through that a little bit as they made some phone calls and things, were able to pray with them. And shortly after that, you two came back. You were there in the lobby. You came in and talked with them, and an interesting thing happened.
Yeah,
crazy thing.
Gareth looks at this guy and says, "Where are you from?" And he says, "Eastern Kentucky." And Gareth kind of looked at him. The look on your face, man, at that moment, it was unreal. He's like, "Who's from Eastern Kentucky?" And when he said Eastern Kentucky, Gareth, what was your first? I guess you just asked him where from Eastern Kentucky.
What county? He said, Breathitt County. I said, Breathitt County, Kentucky? He said, "You know that?" I was like, "Yeah, I lived there. Like, that's where I worked EMS there. Like, that's where I went to college. Like, very, very, very involved in Breathitt County. We just went." That's when we, for those of you that are listening that helped out or gave financially for help us to go do the flood relief, that was in Breathitt County. So it's really, those are like 6,000, 8,000 people that live in Breathitt County now. So the fact that he lived there, unbelievable. And then I said, "What part of Breathitt County?" And he says, "Lost Creek." It would be like finding like just a couple thousand people and you living across the street from this person, and you're up at DC loving on people. I don't know that you could ever articulate that was just a coincidence.
Yeah, and there's 40 plus years age difference.
Oh my goodness,
between the two of you, and to see him light up.
Yeah, it was awesome.
After having such a horrible, after receiving such painful news about losing a child.
Yep.
And then to see him light up, and you guys, you started going down all, naming these different roads and places and people and all this stuff. And Adam and I were just looking on like, what in the world is happening right now?
Yeah. What am I supposed to do with this right now?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
He hugged my neck and said, "You'll never realize how much I needed that." And he walked me over to his wife and he said, "Guess who has been to Lost Creek, Kentucky?" And she said, "This guy." So we end up exchanging numbers, and here in a couple of weeks, I'm going to go back to Kentucky. I got to go get some documentation actually from a vehicle that may or may not be held up at the local DMV in Kentucky, but we won't get into that for our state police officers or Kenny Ray. I'll leave that alone, but I'm going to give him a call. He said, "Give me a call. I'm 3 hours away. When you hit the state line, I'll head your way." So that's really, really neat.
Yeah.
Really neat to be able to help out in those little ways.
And we could look at that and say, well, that's just coincidence and all that kind of thing. But I don't think so.
Nope. It was clearly a purpose, and we were somewhat disappointed. Some of us were a little more disappointed than others, but that the rain came and kind of the whole day was, in essence, shot. We had got hotel rooms and drove up, and we can't hardly do anything. And yet, that was a pretty significant God appointment.
Yes.
So I guess it just goes to show you, wherever you are, be all there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
man, I remember that statement.
Mm-hmm.
There's opportunities, in front of us at all times. If we'll just kind of keep an eye out and an ear open, you'll never know what we might see or hear. One of the things that was kind of neat that I know you guys had to cut out. And
so Scarlett.
Wait, what just happened?
Scarlett right now.
Oh yeah,
has fell off her bed and is dreaming and kicking the wall. And I'm sorry, it's just a little distracting. It's a little I've never seen.
She's just trying to weasel her way in.
Weasel her way.
I see what I did there.
Yeah.
She's trying to ferret her way into this conversation. One of these days, we're going to have her on here. She's barked once this entire year.
She's been on here a couple of times, but it's always like when she's shaking the fur off herself.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that was pretty neat, my last day up there in D.C. was on Wednesday. And Wednesday afternoon, we had the opportunity to go to Quantico, and they have a kids' day. That particular day, they had a festival for the children of the fallen officers, and just a lot of fun. Face painting, and had to be the best face painters I've ever seen. It was amazing what they were doing. But what was incredible for me is the numbers of kids that I had met the year before that remembered Scarlett. And in that setting, we could really have more of a conversation. And it gave me an opportunity to interact with them about, hey, what's been the toughest part of this week for you, and then kind of flip it. What's been the highlight of this week for you? And again and again, it was, hey, I'm doing it right now. I'm petting this dog. That's the highlight of my week. But it was really good catching up with the kids there. But before we that morning, before we went to Quantico, we went to Dulles, and we had the opportunity. There was an honor flight that was solely Vietnam veterans, the entire flight. And if you're not familiar with the honor flights, they bring in veterans of various wars. In years past, of course, there's a lot of World War II veterans, and of course, that the percentage of World War II veterans that are still with us is so slim now. So there's very few left, and but they'll bring in Korean War veterans and Vietnam veterans and things. They'll fly them from various places. This flight came in from Chicago, and as they were getting off the planes on the secure side, if you will, of the airport, we had a few of the dogs there greeting them, several officers and others greeting them, clapping for them, welcoming them, shaking their hands, thanking them for what they for wearing the uniform, and to see the emotion in their eyes and hear it in their voices was substantial. And then when they went from that side to the public side, if you will, there was more dogs there greeting them. There was bands. There were current service members there greeting them. There were honor guards, several civilians there. It was amazing, the greeting that they had. And then they loaded up onto buses, and we waved them off as they went to tour different sites around D.C. Very special moment, again, that we were able to participate in.
Yeah, overall, man, and we talked about it. I know the weather wreaked havoc on a lot of our plans, but the parts we were able to be a part of they're just incredible. There's no way you can walk away from there the same person that you were when you got there, when you get to be with all these families and get to be with all these honor guards and again, meeting people. I had a long conversation with a group of guys from Massachusetts State Police, had a long conversation with an honor guard from Great Britain, had a long conversation with an honor guard from Chicago Police Department, just different places, and, getting just to have, be reminded. One thing that I love about that is everybody's from a different place, but we're all on the same team. We're all after the same thing. We're all after the same goal, and we're all out there doing this together. And so it was just a really incredible experience. And I really hope that we all get to go back again next year. I really would look forward to that being a part of something we get to do every year.
One of the things too, that as I thought, thought about my time up there. This is my second year having been able to go. If you're listening into this, you're wearing the uniform today. Let me just again remind you, we've talked about this on here before, and we're just talking about this, but wherever you are, be all there.
Yep.
Do not take your loved ones for granted. Officers, no doubt you have an incredibly tough job. The career, the calling that you have stepped into is so demanding. The toll is great. But one of the things that Police Week reminds me of that I want to encourage you all to think about is like, again, when you are home, be all there. You matter so very much to your families. Whether that be your parents, your siblings, your spouse, your children, I can assure you, you matter to those people in your circle. And so along the way, be sure that you're taking care of those relationships. Yep. Enjoy those relationships. Yep. Enjoy that time that you have together. Yep. These families that were up there, you know, they would do anything to have more time with their loved one. And, you know, I'm losing a lot of people. There's been a lot of deaths in and around, and people that I know in and around my age right now. It's weird. In some ways, getting older, I'm at the age where people start having heart attacks and all that kind of stuff with more frequency. And the older I get, the more I realize we're not here very long, right? So let's take advantage of the time that we have with our loved ones and make it count. There's more to life than just the job. There's more to life than the uniform. It is a special calling. We're so grateful for what you do, and your families are so proud of you. But make sure that you're taking care of those relationships and taking advantage of that time.
Well, guys, I think that about wraps up for the majority of what we can share in this episode. And so I hope that you all have, it's a little bit different than what we normally do on a regular week, but we did want to share our experience from Police Week, one, because it's important for those of you who are a part of our SHiELD family to be able to hear about different ways that we are able to serve and different places we're able to go. We want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity. Thank you for supporting us. It gives us the opportunity to go to places like Reagan National on a week like Police Week. We thank the agencies that provided things to make that happen. We're very grateful to get to do what we do, and we're very thankful that we get to not just have a local impact, but now we're getting to have a state and national impact. And so it's a privilege that we don't take lightly, and we're very grateful for it. So next week, we'll kind of get back and geared up with things. And so we're looking forward to that episode, and we hope that you guys will join back with us. And again, don't forget, if you want to check out the Vegemite videos, you can head over to our social media channel on Facebook, and you can see what really took place and how those their facial expressions may have looked a little bit different it may have looked a little worse than the words that they used to describe what was taking place. So head over there, check out those videos, and we will see you guys back on the next episode.